If you get a request to join Mayhem and play Overwatch League, will you accept it? Oh, that's funny. Any other teams, Glads? I mean, I have a pretty good working relationship with Shock. There's a reason why I stick with Mayhem, and I've had good experiences with Mayhem. I know every team has made, you know, had weird circumstances and fuck-ups and stuff like that, but like there's just so much shit at this point that Overwatch League itself is just in trouble. October is gonna be crazy. I hope so, dude. Like, realistically, the Overwatch community fucking deserves it. We've gone through enough shit. But I wouldn't be lying. I'd be lying to you if I haven't, like, thought about it in the back of my head. Like, what happens if it doesn't? What happens if it falls flat, you know? If you get a request to join Mayhem and play Overwatch League, will you accept it? Oh, that's funny. Yo, dude, you know how fucking you'd have to get Albert, yeah, so fucked up, like beyond like he'd have to not be able to speak for something like that to happen, dude. Like, stop, please stop, dude. I don't like, you know, God, it comes back to me a lot of times because people think that like streamers or even myself think that we're good enough to play in a Overwatch League, but like all we do is sit there. And I do it all the time. I sit there and go, no, dude, like, I don't think you understand. There's such a massive difference between someone who plays ladder and is, like, good at heroes on ladder and ranked games and, like, actual competitive settings. Like, we're not even close to the same. Do you think ML7 could have made it? I bet ML would tell you the same exact thing. But the thing is, though, is, like, mechanically and skill-wise, absolutely, I would say is good enough to give a contender a shot, but there is no chance and there's no reason to grab a streamer and try to have them play in a Overwatch League without them having any prior contenders experience and like playing through that, you know? Like there's zero reason to. Like unless you're gonna literally use them as a marketing tool. And if I was gonna get signed to Overwatch League as an Overwatch League team, quote unquote, as a marketing tool, I'm demanding so much fucking money, it's not even gonna be funny. And to be honest with you, I think most of the teams are fucking broke, so that ain't gonna happen either. Frogger competed in contenders is actually pretty good, so I mean, yo, you know, 100% Frogger is a very good player, but also, you have to remember, and this isn't like a knock, but Australian contenders just not on the levels of like some of the other regions. They're just not. Like, unfortunately, like it's kind of foolish to really say they are, because even like tier 3 teams from NA would VPN to Australia to try to compete in Australian open queue / contenders. Because even on the super high ping, they would have a better chance. So, but this was years ago, old Overwatch lore. Say you got a decent offer, would you accept it? I wouldn't accept it unless I was getting hundreds of thousands. Absolutely not. Why would I accept it? Why? Like, let's say theoretically I was good enough, which I'm not. Let's say theoretically I am good enough to play in Overwatch League. Let's say all of a sudden something just clicked and I'm just absolute fucking all-star. What else do I have going? Stream, a name, and a brand. What's gonna happen when I sign to a team? They are going to absolutely milk my brand and my name for everything it's worth. They're gonna try to sign deals and promise like impressions. They're gonna promise streams. They're gonna promise, you know, ad reads. Think about remember when Super was signed in the Overwatch League and signed to Shock? How much, dude? They had Super doing shit all the time. Now, there wasn't that often, but I'm sure he also had something in his contract to try to restrict that. I'm sure Super's contract was unbelievable, you know? When you're the face of the league, and you have arguably the biggest stream in the whole game, and, you know, teams know that, like, realistically, if you're, say, I don't know, Boston, who's Boston gonna to market right now? Like Crimzo, Punk? Sure. But they're not gonna have the same effect as like Super had. Do you get what I mean? Not even close to having the same effect. They're just not as well known or well marketed. And there's plenty and plenty of examples. I like to use the example of Fusions because I know Fusions, or I knew Fusions pretty well. So I don't think he would mind too much me saying his name. But like, for example, chat, what's Fusions doing nowadays? Does anyone know? Like, doesn't really stream or anything like that. Wasn't able to do much, or didn't really do much with Overwatch after that. I have a career that's going that I would say is pretty decent, pretty successful. You know what I mean? The amount of teams that would try to use my name, use my stream, use my branding, and all that stuff on top of playtime, it would be unbelievable. You know? So unless I got some ultra contract, probably not. What about Space? He does both decently and won like a 2018 World Cup. So, okay, like real talk, like what do you think World Cup gets you? Like, World Cup doesn't get you shit. Like, I think World Cup 2019, it's pretty well known at this point, was one of the biggest shit shows in gaming. Like, dude, they were playing on like literal tables in back rooms at BlizzCon with a fucking like piece of cloth in between them, you know? And you could like hear each other's comms and shit like that. It was wild. You get nothing for winning World Cup. The World Cup was, the whole point of World Cup was to help show off talent that you normally wouldn't get to see. Fusions is a great example for that as well. Is Fusions wasn't getting like any looks, or from at least from what I know, wasn't getting any looks. Then had a standout performance with Team UK in 2018 or 2019, and then all of a sudden got signed to an Overwatch League team. Like, that's awesome. That's great opportunities for people to be able to show off. But that has nothing to do with like your branding and what you're worth as a player. And it's just, I don't know. I don't think it's. I'd have to be made like I'd have to like sign a deal and become a part owner. Like, realistically, it would have to be something crazy. And there's no team that's gonna do that. And I'm not good enough anyway, so there's no point in having the conversation. I think we reached the point in Overwatch where we don't even care for competitive games. We just watch for entertainment. Oh yeah, oh yeah, dude. Like, realistically, nobody gives a fuck. Like, the amount of people that actually care about like who has rank 1 is, there's like fucking 12 of them. You know, like, God, it used to be the bane of my existence. Like last year when it was like the small group of like 500 people who genuinely always cared who was rank 1, who's the best player, blah, blah, blah. Then I think they got fucking pushed out because nobody cared anymore. And now they're gone, and that was like the last like 500 of them. So nobody gives a shit, you know? As people don't want to play Overwatch anymore, but they watch it. I would say that's pretty true. I also think that at this point, most people are just like survivor mentality or survivor bias. That it's like, you've already waited this long, what's another month and a half till Overwatch 2, you know? I think it's season 34, not 33, right? No, it's season 35. Season 35. Overwatch League needs to get its stuff together. It's going to fall out. Overwatch League's not going to go anywhere, at least over to Overwatch 2 on the horizon. But Overwatch League needs to get its shit together. It needs to not take another YouTube deal. It needs to understand that losing the couple million, losing the millions of dollars, like I don't know, how much was the YouTube deal? Was it like 100 million or something like that for 3 years of streaming on both COD and Overwatch League? Yeah, cool. 100 million, honestly, a lot of fucking money. A lot of money, but each team paid in like what, like 20 million or 25 million or some shit. So all the teams paid in 25 million. So you have 100 million over the span of 3 years through 20 Overwatch League teams and what is it, 12 COD teams or more? Let's say there's 12 COD teams. That's really not that much. Like, each team's getting a couple million back after their $20 million investment, plus their operating costs. Plus all the sponsors pulled out after the allegations and everything that came out last year. You basically sold off your game's viewership to make a quick buck. So the only way Overwatch League, I think, really returns to glory is you got to go back to Twitch. You take the L, try to incentivize ways to make money. For example, remember the viewer you used to be able to get? So in 2018 or 2019, you paid for the pass, and you got ad-free viewing, and you got this insider deck thing, and you could choose whose POV you wanted to watch, the control center, and you couldn't hear comms, which I think they should add. If they added comms, oh my god, that would be such a good idea. Like, adding comms would be the fucking absolute best idea. Apex did it, and everyone loved it. Yeah, was it the best idea for sponsors? Probably not. Long term, is that gonna happen? Probably not. But if I got to run it myself, and I get to choose like what is the best option, you give it's slightly delayed, so that if someone does say something stupid, there's someone behind the scenes that can go beep and fucking cut their audio before it goes to live. You should have a whole production team for this shit anyways. So if there's someone says something stupid, boop, you just fucking cut their audio, right? Cut the mic up, no problem. You can hear player comms, you can watch their POV, you can watch whoever you want, and then you pay a premium for it. Let's say you pay like $50 for the year, or you pay $30 for the year, whatever price they decide to choose for. And that's how they make their money. And then on top of that, they go in the Twitch ecosystem, which feeds into it. You have all the streamers that want to co-stream, so they partner with streamers to co-stream it. So either you pick certain ones to watch, or you have like a program. And so not only do you have your own viewership that you can show to sponsors, but you can actually show the viewership of everyone who co-streamed. So like, let's say I signed a deal with Overwatch League, and then me, Emong, Jay, ML, and Seagull all signed deals. So they take the viewership on the main broadcast, they can add my viewership, Seagull's viewership, ML's viewership, Jay's viewership, etc. And when they go to a sponsor with their deck in the future and be like, hey, we got X amount of viewers on our thing, they can also specify like, this is the main broadcast, this is with co-streaming, but co-streaming is the same thing, just with extra eyeballs. It's still technically impressions, and that's what companies care about more than anything. That way, you lose the upfront money from the quote-unquote signing deal, like Overwatch did with YouTube, but your game becomes healthier, your ecosystem becomes healthier, people buy into it more, people enjoy the product, and they're paying for the product, yes, but only if they want to have the additional service with it, and you make it something that people are worth purchasing, you know? Like, if you like, that's the beauty of capitalism. You want to sell something, make it worth it to the investor or to the buyer. Like, I think like, I don't know who it was, like Mazda or somebody made a car in California, and it was only sold in California, and it's an electric car, and it's so dog shit. It looks nice. It's a nice looking SUV, but it has 100-mile range with not towing, just flat out only has 100-mile range as an electric car. For the entire month that it was first out, through all dealerships in California, they sold 7. In a whole month, they sold 7 of these cars. Through the whole fucking month. Why? Because nobody wanted to buy it. You don't buy a dog shit product. You know? That's why capitalism is beautiful, weird go. I mean, capitalism, that is where it is good. Whereas if you have something that's a shit product, people won't buy it. That's the point. Like, if you want people to buy your product, you make it good. And that's what I mean what Overwatch League could do, is make their product good. And if they had an advanced system where you could listen to the comms of players and you could see certain POVs, make that a purchasable upgrade, and you sell that, and you'll make money off of it. And then you make money off ads. You make money off of sponsors, and your sponsor numbers will look better because you have co-streams. And then on top of that, you have the Twitch ecosystem, where you then, when Overwatch League is on, you have a lot of people that are watching Overwatch League, kind of like how CSGO does. And on top of that, the category has more viewership. Category having more viewership brings in more new viewers bringing in. With the league being at the #1 spot, most people click on the #1 spot, and then they trickle down past that. Like, there's so many reasons. There's so many reasons to do it. But it's literally chasing money. It's chasing dollar signs. That's what it is. They're chasing short-term gains and losing out on long-term. Because the teams are trying to recoup And the leagues are trying to recoup the money that they lost from their initial investment through these small deals, and they fucked themselves. As I discussed about the command center doesn't incentivize them to continue doing it on plat chat, basically increasing production costs. Wait, what? As I discussed on the command center doesn't incentivize them to continue doing it on plat chat, basically increasing production costs. Wait, why doesn't it? I'd be curious if there's more to that. Was the cost not enough to cover it? Like, did not enough people buy it, or not enough people would buy it in today's thing? Because if there was an increase in production cost, you would bake that into your price point, you know, or you can make it a monthly subscription. Not enough people bought into it. That's interesting. That's interesting. I would be curious to see how many people bought into it. But on top of that too, the command center wasn't the absolute best it could have been. I bet if they included comms and you could hear what the teams were saying in real time, I guarantee you people would have liked it more, because it was 100% watered down. You had the player view, you had the player cam, and you had their POV. You know, that's okay.
Never had a chance.
But you can't hear their comms, and that's a pretty big part of it, you know? Apex was a perfect example, right? Everyone watched Apex, right? When they watched Apex, what did they watch? They watched the player POVs. You got to hear them, you know? I don't know. It's weird.
All in a day's work.
Good luck understanding Korean. Well, you don't even have to understand Korean, though. Actually, one of the teams that competed in the Apex tournament was Korean. You couldn't even understand. I don't think you could understand them, but you could hear their comms. You could hear like how stressed they were, how like super competitive. Like when they made calls, they were fucking screaming. They were screaming, right? That's fucking sick. You know, like they're going all in. They are putting it all on the line to win. You know, those are things that matter. Those are really things that matter. But regardless, though, I'd be curious to hear what the rest of the argument was on that point. Could be right. That's just my own take. My own take doesn't have to be the absolute correct answer, but you just asked for what my opinion is, and I gave it. Players kept saying stupid stuff, and fines didn't stop them.
You needed killing.
I don't think mics were hot during the control center. They never were. I think that there was definitely stupid shit that got said, but that was wasn't that like on stage and stuff like that too? That wasn't during the commands. That wasn't because of the command center though, was it?
Too slow.
I don't think so. I don't think command center ever had comms. Look at something like F1 does with the radio. They air the radio comms like 45 seconds or later. So if they wild, they can avoid people. Yes! Or they beep it. They beep it out. You know, there's ways to get around it. I don't know. There's ways to get around it. I feel like they kind of were a little lazy with it. You know? And they were just like, we don't want to be we don't want to take the risk. And it's like, all right, well, you're losing a lot. Losing a lot, you know? Doesn't even football have mic'd up players every now and then? Football has a lot of mic'd up moments. Baseball does too. I think baseball is one of the biggest mic'd up games, if I'm not wrong on that, because baseball's kind of slow, so they have to like amp it up in other places, and hot mics are a good way to do that. In real time? Jesus Christ, I've never heard of that. Who watches baseball? Let's be real. Okay, that's a pretty fair argument though. That's pretty fair. NBA hot mics are fire. True. Most Major League sports have so many audio sources going on. That's true. Overwatch League doesn't even need to have that many. You know? Doesn't even need to have that many. Just put a small delay on the broadcast. That's it. That's all you gotta do. You know? I come back into the stream and you're wearing the glasses. Best day of my life. Wait, I've been wearing them the whole time. I never took them off. I mean, I guess I took them off for like 8 seconds to put them on chat, but 15-second delay is more than enough. I'm not really a broadcast guy, so I don't really know what it is, but you get what I mean.